Continuing from the previous episode 517. Chapter 1446. Small Pill Tower, Not a Human. Xiao Yan felt his skin explode apart at this moment. The corner of his mouth twitched. It was a long while later before he suppressed his voice and softly asked, "A legendary D-tier medicinal pill?" All medicinal pills that had experienced a 9-colored pill lightning would possess some intelligence, but the medicinal pills were mostly in the form of a beast. Some of the legendary Tier 9 medicinal pills were able to take on a human form, and it was even possible for them to train. However, Xiao Yan had only read about these pills in some ancient books. A D-tier medicinal pill was extremely rare even in ancient times. How can anyone refine one now? Zhang Kongzi was not surprised to see Xiao Yan's shock. He had also been stunned for a long time before recovering the first time he had heard about the ancestor's actual form. The elder who refined ancestor was one of the founders of the Pill Tower, but that elder has already died. A year before he was about to die, he spent all his effort to refine a medicinal pill. This ancestor had been exhausted when the pill formed and ended up quietly dying. However, a tendril of his spirit entered the Tier 9 medicinal pill in a strange fashion, causing this Tier 9 medicinal pill to undergo a transformation. Subsequently, this medicinal pill turned into a human form that did not leave the Pill Tower. It remained behind as a guardian of the Pill Tower. From a certain point of view, this ancestor could be described as a unique avatar of that elder, but the control of this avatar is rather complicated. Zhang Kongzi laughed as he explained. With the flow of time, the ancestor has rescued the Pill Tower from destruction time and time again. In the end, no one could match his status in the Pill Tower, but he was not really interested in this. He would go missing after the Pill Tower stabilized. No one could find him. Xiao Yan wiped his cold sweat off. The origin of this ancestor in the Pill Tower was mysterious. A mutated Tier 9 Zon pill. Xiao Yan was clearly aware of the division of Tier 9 medicinal pills. The 9th tier was separated into 3 grades: Tier 9 Treasure Pill, Tier 9 Zon Pill, and Tier 9 Golden Pill. The Tier 9 medicinal pills that appeared in this world were mostly treasure pills. One was basically unable to find Zon pills, and the distant Tier 9 Golden pills were likely something that only appeared in ancient times. After the Tier 9 Golden pill was the legendary D pill. No one currently living on this continent could refine this medicinal pill. That elder was able to refine a Tier 9 Zon pill and cause it to mutate. It is likely that his strength was, at the very least, a 5 or 6 star Do Sheng. Upon thinking about this, Xiao Yan's heart involuntarily felt shaken by the strength the Pill Tower had once possessed. Forget it. There is no need to discuss the matter related to the ancestor anymore. He has been missing for many years, and there is no telling when he will appear. Perhaps, he is now in the form of a baby doing the so-called experiencing life. Zhang Kongzi waved his hand. His tone was helpless because of this legendary ancestor who had been missing for many years. The last time he had met the ancestor was a 17 to 18-year-old youth. There was no way to tell what he had become now. What about the matter of the alliance? The shock in Xiao Yan's heart was gradually withdrawn as he asked. Since the ancestor is not around, all the major matters of the Pill Tower are decided by the main Elder Council of the Small Pill Tower by voting. Zhang Kongzi replied, "It must go through the main Elder Council, huh? In that case, it will be a little troublesome. Most of the old fellows there are pedantic. It will be difficult to get them to vote in support of the alliance." Yao Lao frowned and said, "There are a total of 10 seats in the Grand Elder Council. The 3 of us, being the 3 great heads of the Pill Tower, are also inside. Even though this is the case, we only have 3 votes." Zan Yi helplessly explained. "Moreover, the remaining 7 old fellows are much more experienced than us. Our words will not have much of an impact on them. Only 3 votes. That is insufficient." Yao Lao shook his head as he replied. Although this main Elder Council was relatively democratic and its decision was dependent on the number of votes for and against a certain decision, some of the old fellows inside were extremely pedantic. Most of them would be against this alliance. As long as there was a difference of a single vote in this main Elder Council, the result would be fixed. No one could modify the decision. It is not as though there is no hope. 2 of the 7 elders have an extremely great enmity with the Hall of Souls. If we can convince them, we will have 5 votes. Hence, we will have an equal number of votes as those other old fellows. Zhang Kongzi mused for a moment and explained. Oh, can you be certain about this? Yao Lao's eyes brightened upon hearing this. If it was 5 votes against 5 votes, there was a lot of wiggle room for hope. I cannot be certain, but I can at least give it a try. Why don't you and Xiao Yan follow me into the small pill tower? Once I report this matter, those old fellows will definitely be a little shocked. Zhang Kongzi laughed. All right. It has been many years since I have entered that place. Yao Lao hesitated for a moment before nodding. He looked at Xiao Yan and laughed. Those who have gathered are all alchemist gurus who once possessed an extremely well-known reputation across the Central Plains. You are lucky to be able to enter. It will be an eye-opener. Ha ha, with Xiao Yan's current abilities, he will probably be opening those old fellows' eyes. Zan Yi laughed. Zhang Kongzi smiled and stood up. He walked to the end of the large hall before pressing his hand against a smooth jade-like wall. A ripple spread from his palm, and everyone saw the wall began to swiftly wiggle. In the blink of an eye, the wall had turned into a slowly rotating spatial tunnel. A self-created realm. Huh. This small pill tower really exists inside a created realm. Xiao Yan muttered in his heart after seeing this tunnel appear. Let's go. Zhang Kongzi smiled after opening the spatial tunnel. After which, he took the lead and walked into the tunnel. Xiao Yan's group followed. The tunnel slowly scattered after the last person entered. After which, it turned back into a hard wall. After traveling a short distance through the spatial tunnel in less than a minute, the light in front of Xiao Yan suddenly brightened. By the time he opened his eyes, he discovered that he was already standing on a towering green mountain. Clouds lingered in the sky, giving the land an extremely misty appearance. What a dense medicinal ingredient scent! Xiao Yan's nose twitched. His eyes swept around, and he was surprised to discover that this entire mountain was filled with many medicinal gardens. Tons of extremely rare medicinal ingredients in the outside world were growing in clusters in these gardens. This is just like a second pill realm. Some surprise flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes as he looked around. These medicinal gardens belong to various owners. They are the new lives of those old fellows. Zhang Kongzi smiled, after which, he lifted his foot and walked to the top of the mountain. Xiao Yan's group quickly followed behind him. It was possible to see some elderly figures amid the surrounding lush medicinal sea. These old men might appear like farmers growing medicinal ingredients, but Xiao Yan could sense an extremely powerful spiritual fluctuation coming from each of them. These old medicinal farmers had obtained a high level of attainment in terms of spiritual strength. They did not pay much attention to Xiao Yan's unfamiliar face. Yao Lao by the side attracted many surprised gazes. Some old fellows stepped forward to greet Yao Lao along the way. Clearly, they had been acquainted with Yao Lao in the past. The group passed by a couple of mountain roads before they stopped at the peak of the mountain. Zhang Kongzi's group settled Xiao Yan and Yao Lao in a somewhat simple stone house before hurrying away. They were going to report the matter of the alliance. Xiao Yan and Yao Lao were aware that they could not rush this matter. Hence, the both of them sat in the house and rested. They waited for a couple of hours before Zhang Kongzi finally returned with the other two in tow. 2 pieces of news, one is good and one is bad. Zhang Kongzi bitterly laughed after entering the house. He looked at Xiao Yan and said, "The good news is that we are able to gather 5 votes to support it." Xiao Yan and Yao Lao's attention was braced after hearing the good news. 5 votes might not result in a victory, but it at least represented some hope. The bad news is that in 3 days, the main Elder Council will accept a new elder. This new elder will also possess 1 vote. Unfortunately, the one with the greatest chances of entering the main Elder Council is also an extremely pedantic old fellow. You are acquainted with that old fellow. Zhang Kongzi's eyes landed on Yao Lao as his words fell. Yao Lao frowned before asking, "Old demon who?" It is that old fellow who did not see eye to eye with you." Zhang Kongzi helplessly continued, "Whether it is from his pedantic views or some other reason, he will definitely vote against the alliance if he becomes the new elder. You had stepped on him during the pill gathering back then. This old fellow has been extremely displeased for many years. If you had not left the small pill tower back then, you would have long since become an elder of the main Elder Council. We would not need to feel such a headache over this matter now." Zan Yi glanced at Yao Lao and spoke in a faint voice. Yao Lao could only bitterly smile when he heard these words. "What should we do now? If that old fellow really votes against the alliance, there is no hope for the alliance? Tian Lei asked in a deep voice. Zhang Kongzi and Yao Lao became quiet after hearing him speak. It is not totally hopeless. Won't everything be fine if we don't allow that old demon Hu to become a new elder? Zhan Yi suggested. That is easy to say but difficult to do. Who in the Pill Tower Mountain can compete with old demon Hu? Old Yao might be able to, but he withdrew from the Pill Tower on his own accord back then. According to the rules, he does not possess the qualification to compete. Zhang Kongzi shook his head as he spoke. Zhan Yi parted a lock of hair from her forehead and smiled a strange smile. Her eyes shifted to Xiao Yan. Old Yao do not have the qualification to compete, but Xiao Yan does. He is the pill-gathering champion and a potential successor to be the giant head of the Pill Tower. This status does give him the qualification to compete. It will just depend on whether he will be able to defeat old demon Hu. After all, that old fellow was someone who nearly took the pill-gathering champion spot from Yao Chen back then. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 518. Chapter 1447. Elder Selection, Xiao Yan. Zhang Kongzi and the rest were slightly startled after hearing Zhan Yi's words. They mused for a moment before nodding. Zhang Kongzi said, although old demon Hu's seniority far surpasses Xiao Yan might be able to compete with this old fellow with his current abilities. Yao Lao nodded and laughed. All right. Let Xiao Yan compete with that old fellow. I'll let that old demon know that not only can I, Yao Chen, defeat him, even the disciple I groomed can defeat him. If that is really the case, it is likely that old demon Hu's face would turn green. Tian Lei loudly laughed. Xiao Yan was speechless when he heard these four people decide that he should compete after a couple of sentences, but he was also clearly aware that this matter would determine the success of the alliance. Hence, he did not object to the competition. With his current alchemist skill, he would not feel the slightest fear even when dealing with those extremely old demons. How many colors can a pill lightning from a medicinal pill refined by that old demon possess? Xiao Yan mused for a moment and asked. He naturally needed to be aware of his opponent. It has been many years since I have seen that old demon go all out. The last time I saw him refine a pill with all his strength should have been 2 decades ago. At that time, he had successfully attracted an 8-colored pill lightning. He will probably be able to attract a 9-colored pill lightning now. Zhang Kongzi thought for a moment before speaking. 9-colored pill lightning, huh? This person was indeed worthy of being someone who had competed with Yao Lao to be the champion of the pill gathering. Such alchemy skill could be considered top-notch across the Central Plains. That old fellow has progressed very quickly during these years. In order to beat him, Xiao Yan must refine a Tier 9 medicinal pill? Yao Lao frowned. A Tier 9 medicinal pill, even if it was the lowest grade, a Tier 9 treasure pill was somewhat troublesome for Yao Lao to refine. Xiao Yan might be powerful, but when it came to pill refinement, one relied on accumulated experience. That old demon had been totally immersed in pill refinement for many years. His experience was many times that of Xiao Yan. Zhang Kongzi and the 2 others nodded. Their eyes swung to Xiao Yan as Zhang Kongzi asked, Are you confident? A Tier 9 medicinal pill, huh? Xiao Yan gently rubbed his finger and softly replied, I can give it a try. Although Xiao Yan had never refined a Tier 9 medicinal pill, his current strength had soared, and his spiritual strength had improved by leaps and bounds during his 2-year retreat. He had already stepped into the heavenly state from the soul state. He was not any weaker than Yao Lao and the others from the older generation. Zhang Kongzi's group sighed in relief after hearing Xiao Yan's words. They immediately said, Let's do this. We will find a way to allow Xiao Yan to join the competition. It will not be much trouble with his pill-gathering champion qualification. Yao Lao and Xiao Yan nodded. Ha. The 2 of you should stay here for these next 3 days. The environment of this place is extremely suitable for alchemists. Zhang Kongzi stood up. He laughed before leaving with Zhan Yi and Tian Lei. They still needed to call in some favors to get Xiao Yan to join the elder selection. After all, it would be a little troublesome to suddenly include another person. Xiao Yan and Yao Lao temporarily resided in the Pill Tower Mountain during the subsequent 3 days. Many older generation alchemists arrived during these 3 days. Of course, they had naturally come because of Yao Lao. Most of the old people here were acquainted with Yao Lao. They would naturally want to come and visit after having not met for many years. Yao Lao had allowed Xiao Yan to get acquainted with these older generation alchemists who had once been extremely renowned on the Central Plains. These old fellows had made many friends across the Central Plains in the past. One would naturally gain many benefits just by being acquainted with them. Xiao Yan was also clearly aware of Yao Lao's intentions. Hence, he appeared relatively courteous and respectful when meeting these people from the older generation, satisfying those old fellows. After they learned that Xiao Yan's alchemist skills were comparable to Yao Lao, they clearly appeared much warmer to him. No matter where one was, those who possessed strength would have an easy time gaining the acceptance of others. 3 days passed by in a flash because of this relatively lively atmosphere. When the morning light on the 4th day landed on the Pill Tower, this mountain had shed its quietness and became much livelier. There was usually little noise emitted in this small Pill Tower. Everyone just discussed and challenged each other's alchemist skills, or they would manage their own medicinal garden. Their days were ordinary and extremely suitable for those old fellows who were tired of the conflict in the continent. The top of the Pill Tower mountain formed an open ground. Clouds covered the surroundings of this open ground. The thick layer of clouds was like cotton, causing one to feel the impulse of wanting to walk on them. This open ground, which rarely had any visitors, was filled with quite a number of people. Most of them had white hair and appeared extremely old. Any person in this place would be greatly sought after by many factions in the Central Plains. If a sect possessed an alchemist of this level, the benefits it would receive would be incomparable. While the number of scattered people on the open ground gradually increased, Yao Lao and Xiao Yan were led over by Zhang Kongzi and the rest. Many people quickly gathered after Yao Lao appeared. They laughed as they greeted him. From this, one could tell that Yao Lao was quite popular within this small Pill Tower. Yao Chen, old thing, are indeed still alive. Yao Lao was smiling as he greeted his old friends when a somewhat unfriendly voice was suddenly emitted. Immediately, the crowd parted and formed a path. A small and skinny gray-robed elder slowly walked over. "Ha ha, old demon who? Even you are still alive. How can I leave before you?" Yao Lao smiled as he looked at the gray-robed old man and asked a rhetorical question. "This is old demon who, huh?" Xiao Yan's heart shook after hearing Yao Lao's form of address. His eyes landed on that gray-robed old man. The old man's size was somewhat similar to his surname, Hu equals monkey. His elderly face appeared a little old-fashioned and seemed like the face of the living dead. "When you left the small Pill Tower on your own back then, I thought that you would not have the backbone to return ever again." The gray-robed old man spoke in a faint voice. There was some ridicule in his voice. He had been at odds with Yao Lao and had been trying his best to surpass Yao Lao even now, but this desire had never been fulfilled. It had become a thorn in his flesh. Yao Lao smiled but did not argue. He acted like a nice old person. "I heard that you were planning on taking part in the elder selection? It's just as well. After having not met for many years, it is time for me to see whether or not your alchemist skill has improved." The gray-robed old man frowned and continued after seeing Yao Lao ignore him. Yao Lao involuntarily smiled after hearing his words. He shook his head and said, "I am not the one participating this time around. If you really insist on competing with me, you should defeat my disciple first. He has coincidentally joined the competition." "Your disciple?" That gray-robed old man turned to Xiao Yan by the side after hearing these words. His expression sank after seeing Xiao Yan's age. He coldly laughed. "This little baby boasts the qualification to participate? Yao Chen, even if you wish to use the back door, you should not do it like this, right? This is the small Pill Tower, not the Central Plains." Some of the elders, who were unaware of the situation, also used strange eyes to look at Xiao Yan. Clearly, they did not understand why he possessed the qualification to participate. "Old demon who? Xiao Yan is this pill gathering's champion. Why would he not be qualified?" Zhang Kongzi glanced at old demon Hu as he inquired. "Pill gathering champion?" The expression of old demon Hu altered after hearing this title. Back then, he had lost the champion spot of the pill gathering competition to Yao Chen by just a little. This matter had been a thorn in his heart. Unexpectedly, the disciple that Yao Chen had taught had also achieved this title. Looks like the quality of the pill gathering was really lacking. Old demon Hu bitterly remarked. "You are wrong. Xiao Yan refined a 5-colored pill lightning during this pill gathering in order to be victorious. The competition was even more intense than the competition in your time. Zhan Yi replied in a faint voice. 5-colored pill lightning? Those surrounding elders revealed surprised faces. At this moment, it might not be difficult for them to refine a medicinal pill of this level, but back when they had participated in the pill gathering, it was already relatively good to be able to refine a medicinal pill that could attract a pill lightning. A 5-colored pill lightning had been relatively distant to them back then. Old Demon Hu's face became even more solemn after hearing this retort. Many soft needles had pricked him until he was quite furious. He felt a little embarrassed as he waved his sleeve and coldly snorted, 5-colored pill lightning? It is nothing here. Since you are not going to participate, allow me to take this elder position. However, since this little fellow is your disciple, this elderly self shall help you teach him. Ha ha, this disciple of mine really doesn't know his limits. Since old Demon Hu intends to teach him, I shall help him. Thank you first. Yao Lao smiled as he replied, Yao Chen, I know what you are here for. Once I obtain that elder position, I will definitely get the both of you to return empty-handed. Old Demon Hu could hear the mockery in Yao Lao's words. With a cold snort, he waved his sleeve, turned around, and furiously left. Yao Lao smiled as studied old Demon Hu's distant back. He softly said, Looks like we need to shatter the beautiful dream of this old demon to be an elder. What do you say? Xiao Yan grinned and gently nodded. There is no need to worry, teacher. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Duh. Continuing from the previous episode 519. Chapter 1448. Small Pill Tower. First elder light from the bright, warm sun tore through the layers of clouds and landed on the top of the mountain. An ancient and melodious gong slowly reverberated through this open ground. The top of the mountain became distorted after this gong began to vibrate. 7 elderly figures appeared on a stone stage within the open ground without any forewarning. Many people bowed and greeted these 7 elders after seeing them. They respectfully said, Greetings to all 7 elders. The main elder council could be considered the highest decision body in the Small Pill Tower. These elders naturally possessed an extremely high status. Moreover, all of them had been selected from the Small Pill Tower and were highly regarded individuals. Hence, many people in the Small Pill Tower respected them. Xiao Yan was mixed in with the crowd. His eyes swept over the 7 elders. After slowly sweeping his gaze over them, he finally paused on 4 individuals. The auras of these 4 individuals appeared exceptionally powerful among those 7 elders, especially the linen-clothed expressionless old man standing at the center. He caused Xiao Yan to throw a sideways glance. 2 middle-level Ban Sheng, 1 high-level Ban Sheng, and 1 who has reached the initial level of the 2nd star of the Do Sheng class. Is this the true strength of the Pill Tower? No wonder it is comparable to the Hall of Souls. Xiao Yan's eyes paused on that linen-clothed old man and quietly sighed in his heart. The foundations of these factions, which had existed for a long time within the Central Plains, was indeed relatively frightening. If one's strength did not reach a certain level, it would be impossible for one to be aware of these extremely secretive existences. That linen-clothed elder is the first elder of the Small Pill Tower. With the exception of the ancestor, he is the most senior person in the Small Pill Tower. Even I will have to greet him as someone from the younger generation. Yao Lao softly explained as he stood beside Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan was quietly speechless after hearing this. Even Yao Lao would have to greet him as someone from the younger generation. The seniority of this first elder was really frightening. The linen-clothed man seemed to have detected Xiao Yan observing him. A pair of eyes as deep as starry space were thrown toward Xiao Yan. A fluctuation immediately flashed across those eyes. Clearly, he had discovered Xiao Yan's true abilities. What a powerful spiritual pressure. Xiao Yan's brows slightly twitched after the first elder glanced over. He could sense an invisible pressure form in the surrounding space. This kind of pressure could not be detected by anyone else. Only the parties involved could sense it. Fortunately, Xiao Yan was very different from his old self. The spiritual pressure of this first elder might pressure him a little, but it could not harm him. His expression did not shift because of the exchange. The chin of the first elder moved slightly in an undetectable manner after noticing Xiao Yan's unchanging expression. His eyes finally slid away. His old but ordinary voice resounded in the ears of everyone present. Today is a rare occasion in our small pill tower, the elder selection. It is not the first time everyone has experienced it. I shall not talk more about the rules involved. You can take any medicinal ingredients from the mountain. Whoever refines the highest tier medicinal pill will naturally be the victor. Everyone, if there are no more inquiries, can those who have obtained the qualification to join the selection please step forward. Although this first elder was extremely old, he did things relatively quickly. Without any unnecessary words, he pointed at the open ground in front of him and gave an order in a faint voice. Understood. Some respectful replies came from around the open ground after hearing the first elder's words. Many figures immediately stepped forward and found their own area to stand within the open ground. I will also head out. Xiao Yan smiled after seeing these people step forward. Do your best. Do not disgrace your teacher's name. Zhan Yi grinned and replied. Xiao Yan nodded, after which, he squeezed out from the crowd and found an empty space amidst the many surprised gazes from around him. The appearance of Xiao Yan attracted many pairs of eyes. Most of the old people here lived in seclusion. Hence, they did not know why this young man had suddenly joined the selection. This junior is Xiao Yan. He is Yao Chen's disciple and was the champion of the most recent pill gathering. According to the rules, he possesses the qualification to join the elder selection. The first elder swept his eyes around as he explained in a faint voice. So that is why. It is unexpected that the old fellow Yao Chen accepted another disciple. However, this elder selection is not an ordinary game. Can it be that Yao Chen has purposefully asked this young fellow to join in order to gain some experience? Some private conversations started after the first elder's words sounded. Although the weight of the pill-gathering champion title was quite heavy, it appeared a little insufficient if one wished to rely on this title to compete with the other seniors for the position of an elder. Many people concluded that Yao Chen intended to have Xiao Yan gain some experience. Xiao Yan was naturally unconcerned with the thoughts of these people. He shut his eyes and recuperated. After many elderly figures appeared within the spacious open ground, the remaining people slowly withdrew to the edges of the square. Finally, the first elder once again slowly opened his mouth. If everyone is prepared, please begin. The atmosphere within the open ground immediately became tense after hearing the first elder's words. Everyone's expressions gradually became grave. Clang! A clear metallic sound suddenly appeared in this tense atmosphere. Soon after, another noise appeared. Many medicinal cauldron with extraordinary auras were taken out of storage rings. After which, they heavily landed on the ground. Start the fire! Many cries soon sounded after the cauldrons landed on the ground. Soon after, many different flames that were all quite powerful rose in the medicinal cauldrons. In an instant, the temperature of the entire square rapidly rose. Xiao Yan's expression slowly became grave as he looked at the many medicinal cauldrons around him, but he did not take out a medicinal cauldron. Instead, he extended his right hand and suddenly clenched it. A purple-brown flame that contained hints of a dense white color soon rose from his hand. Bang! This cluster of flames had just appeared when it suddenly swelled. Within a short instant, it began burning above Xiao Yan's head like a cloud of fire. Subsequently, the fire cloud gathered and swiftly formed a purple-brown medicinal cauldron in front of many stunned eyes. The cauldron was completely made out of fire. This is heavenly flame? This young fellow really boasts a powerful control over his flame. However, isn't he afraid of losing control during the refinement after using a heavenly flame to form a cauldron? Xiao Yan's trick immediately attracted many surprised gazes. Many low and deep voices soon conversed. The flame cauldron slowly floated in front of Xiao Yan. Its extremely solid appearance caused many alchemist gurus to reveal grave expressions. Just what kind of a control over a flame and spiritual strength was required in order to control the heavenly flame at this pinnacle level? Old Demon Hu was a short distance away, was also attracted by the commotion. He knit his brow slightly. A cold laugh immediately sounded. A member of the younger generation was ultimately a member of the younger generation. They always did useless things. Xiao Yan gently flicked his finger as he studied the flame cauldron he had formed. A flame rose within the medicinal cauldron. It emitted a puff and transformed into a fire dragon that wandered around the medicinal cauldron. Xiao Yan did not continue the pill refinement process after forming this medicinal cauldron. Instead, he slowly shut his eyes. Many people were stunned when they saw him shut his eyes, but no one dared to underestimate this extremely young person after the level of skill he had just displayed. I wonder what kind of medicinal pill Xiao Yan is planning to refine this time around? Zhang Kongzi looked at Xiao Yan from among the crowd and mused to himself. Xiao Yan has basically learned all that I know. I have never attempted to refine a Tier 9 medicinal pill in the past. Hence, I can only give him 2 types of medicinal formula. Yao Lao softly spoke. The importance of medicinal formulae was obvious after reaching such a level. If one did not possess the medicinal formula of a Tier 9 medicinal pill, it would be impossible to refine a medicinal pill of that level. A Tier 9 medicinal formula was not inferior to a Tien class Qi method or dose skill. Even though Yao Lao had collected formulae for many years, he had only managed to obtain 2 of them. Moreover, they were the lowest grade of a Tier 9 pill, a treasure pill. After Yao Lao had spoken, Xiao Yan suddenly opened both of his eyes. He spread his fingers and an emerald-colored bead appeared between them. Bodhisattva seed? He wishes to refine a bodhisattva pill? Yao Lao's experienced group was aware of Xiao Yan's goal after seeing that emerald bead appear. The highest grade of a bodhisattva pill can at most attract a 9-colored pill lightning. It is a little difficult if he wishes to beat old demon Hu. Zan Yi knit her brows after figuring out what he was going to attempt. It would be a little difficult to obtain victory by simply relying on the bodhisattva seed. Zan Kongzi and Tian Lei frowned. They had already learned that Xiao Yan was an elite Do Sheng from Yao Lao. Although Xiao Yan did not mention his spiritual state, it was obvious that he had reached the heavenly realm. Therefore, he already possessed the qualification to refine a Tier 9 medicinal pill. They could not understand why Xiao Yan had chosen to refine the bodhisattva pill. He should have his own plans. Yao Lao hesitated for a moment. Based on his trust in Xiao Yan, he did not think that Xiao Yan would underestimate his opponent. Xiao Yan's eyes drifted to Yao Lao's group after he took out the bodhisattva seed. He faintly smiled after seeing their frowns. People may think that his pill refinement experience was inferior to an elder like old demon Hu. Normally speaking, his experiences would be inferior to these old demons, who had trained for hundreds of years. However, Xiao Yan had undergone 100 reincarnations while meditating under the bodhisattva tree, which brought him numerous benefits. One of those benefits was experience in pill refinement. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 520. Chapter 1449. That may not be the case. Swoosh. Xiao Yan swung his hand through the empty space in front of him after taking out the bodhisattva seed, and many medicinal ingredients continuously flew out of his storage ring. In the blink of an eye, they piled together in the air above his head. At a glance, there were at least 1,000 of them. Such a number of medicinal ingredients caused the surrounding alchemists to feel speechless. Xiao Yan ignored these people's surprise. His hand gently pressed against the air. A large number of medicinal ingredients was separated from the pile above before they were swiftly thrown into the medicinal cauldron. They were devoured by the fire dragon within the cauldron. The mound of medicinal ingredients in the sky formed a line under Xiao Yan's control as they continuously poured into the medicinal cauldron. Within a short couple of minutes, a frightening energy wave spread from the medicinal cauldron. This energy wave caused the surrounding space to slowly fluctuate. This large number of medicinal ingredients has surpassed the amount needed to work with the bodhisattva seed. Could it be that he is not refining a bodhisattva pill? But why is the majority of the medicinal ingredients similar to the ingredients required to refine a bodhisattva pill? Zan Kongzi frowned and muttered. Yao Lao and the other 2 could only slowly shake their heads when they heard this question. They were also unaware of what Xiao Yan was planning to do. Now, we can only wait until the end. The few of them sighed. They suppressed their doubt in their hearts and began to pay full attention to the competition. The commotion that Xiao Yan's pill refinement had stirred might have been great, but not everyone's eyes were fixated on him. This was the small pill tower. It had gathered all of the extremely well-known alchemist gurus in the Central Plains. Their standards were high since the alchemists besides Xiao Yan were all extraordinary individuals. The sound of wind and lightning accompanied their refinement as a powerful aura formed around them all. If this competition were to be held in the Central Plains, many alchemists would become intoxicated by it. Other than Xiao Yan, the person who caught the most attention among the many alchemists was old demon Hu. Regardless of how unlikable he was, no one doubted his ability to refine pills. Being able to nearly snatch Yao Lao's pill-gathering champion position was sufficient to describe his talent in pill refinement. Moreover, the current old demon Hu was no longer the young man of the past. After so many years of training, his medicinal refinement ability had undoubtedly soared. Hardly anyone even in this small pill tower could surpass him. This old demon Hu had the highest chance of winning in this elder selection. At this moment, old demon Hu was fully focused on his medicinal cauldron. A couple of medicinal ingredient rings continued to rotate around him. Occasionally, some medicinal ingredients with a rich energy would be thrown into the cauldron. After which, they would quickly be refined before they solidified. The many steps were performed with great familiarity. His motions revealed a grandmaster demeanor. The eyes of the 7 elders on the stone stage slowly swept over the square and finally nodded. Looks like old demon Hu is very likely win this time. An elder looked at old demon Hu's demeanor and involuntarily laughed. The few other elders around nodded after hearing his words. The medicinal refinement skills of old demon Hu were not inferior to these elders. The linen-clothed first elder did not speak with them. Both of his hands were withdrawn into his sleeves as his calm eyes swung to where Xiao Yan was located. There were extremely few people in recent years whom he was unable to see through. This young man called Xiao Yan had given him this feeling for some unknown reason. This feeling gave him a sense of foreboding. This selection would likely have a dark horse appearing. Pill refinement, especially the refinement of high-tier medicinal pills, usually required a long period of time. It was extremely common for alchemists of Xiao Yan's level to take 10 days to half a month to refine a pill. The surrounding alchemists were well aware of this, so they did not display any impatience. Instead, they watched the many cauldrons with great enjoyment. An outsider merely watched for its entertainment value while those within the trade observed the skills involved. Other people might feel impatient while watching a pill refinement competition, but it was extremely interesting for these alchemists. Time flowed by and 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. Some chaotic energy fluctuations spread from quite a number of medicinal cauldrons, causing many medicinal essences to be destroyed. However, no one felt disappointed about failing. Failure was something only too common to those present. No one could guarantee that they would maintain a 100% success rate. Even Xiao Yan was unable to say such a thing because his failure rate during these 5 days had been quite high. He had destroyed 3 cauldrons of medicinal ingredients. There were different reasons for each failure. Fortunately, after experiencing 3 failures, Xiao Yan's refinement had become more smooth and much faster. He had gained a lot of insight from his failures. After these 5 days, everyone began to get on the right track. The number of failures also fell. Another 5 days passed and the medicinal cauldrons of some alchemists began to show the figure of an embryonic pill. The surrounding energy fluctuations also became more intense. Following the flow of time, the atmosphere within the open ground had become more solemn. Everyone could sense that the most interesting part was approaching. Bang! Dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky and lightning swiftly danced through them like silver snakes. A moment later, layers of colors gradually surfaced on the clouds until 7 colors were visible. The colors slowly stopped on the 7th color. 7-colored pill lightning. If this had occurred in the Central Plains, it would have attracted countless numbers of shocked eyes, but many people present shook their heads when they saw the 7-colored pill lightning. It was obvious that this result would not enable one to obtain victory because they had already seen 5 7-colored pill lightnings over the past 3 days. Another 7-colored pill lightning. Zhang Kongzi looked at the pill lightning in the sky and laughed. Old Ling seems a little depressed. Yao Lao smiled. He glanced at the old man who had summoned this 7-colored pill lightning. At this moment, Old Ling was helplessly shaking his head. Clearly, he was not satisfied with this result. Zhan Yi smiled as she nodded. Her gaze shifted to where Xiao Yan was located and softly said, "It seems that this little fellow is the calmest person present." Yao Lao bitterly smiled and inclined his head after hearing this statement. Some of the faster individuals had managed to summon pill lightning already. Those who were slower had already formed the shape of an embryonic medicinal pill, but there was not even a slight reaction from Xiao Yan's cauldron, but there was no anxiety on his face. No one knew whether he was calm or putting up a brave front. Old Demon Hu should be able to successfully form a pill in 3 days. If I have guessed correctly, he should be refining the Flame Demon Quiet Mysterious Pill. If he successfully refines the medicinal pill, he will definitely attract a 9-colored pill lightning. Zhang Kongzi informed everyone. The medicinal refinement skill of this old fellow has significantly risen over these years. Yao Lao nodded slightly as he replied. If Xiao Yan wishes to beat him, he must refine a Tier 9 medicinal pill, but regardless of how one raises the level of the Bodhisattva pill, it is impossible to break through to the 9th tier. Zan Yi commented, although Xiao Yan had relied on an external object to raise the quality of his medicinal pill during the pill gathering, it would not work this time. After all, the 9th tier and the 8th tier were two completely different concepts. He has his own plans. Yao Lao hesitated for a moment, but a sentence was all that he could reply with. However, he was a little inwardly anxious. The medicinal ingredients that Xiao Yan was using for this refinement did not match either of the Tier 9 medicinal pills he had given Xiao Yan. In other words, unless Xiao Yan possessed another Tier 9 medicinal formula, he was off doing something random. 3 days passed in an instant. Currently, only a handful of people were still refining within the open ground. Most of the remaining people successfully attracted pill lightning and then withdrew. The eyes of everyone present gathered on two individuals. Those two individuals were Old Demon Hu and Xiao Yan. Everyone had already identified Demon Hu's medicinal pill. If that medicinal pill was successfully born, it would attract a 9-colored pill lightning. It would be the strongest pill lightning that had appeared in the selection. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, had attracted gazes because of his strange actions. His medicinal cauldron had not revealed signs of an embryonic medicinal pill since the very beginning. There was only a fire dragon that danced inside the cauldron, but they were unable to sense any medicinal pill fluctuations from this fire dragon. Bang! A low loud sound was suddenly emitted from the sky while everyone was feeling puzzled. An extremely powerful energy fluctuation suddenly spread. Immediately, clouds began to gather in the sky with lightning-like speed. Old Demon Hu is about to successfully refine his medicinal pill? Someone exclaimed after seeing these clouds form. Old Demon Hu stood up in front of many pairs of eyes. His dead man-like face revealed an ugly smile. He laughingly glanced in Xiao Yan's direction. Both of his hands were placed behind him as he looked at the thunderclouds in the sky. The thunderclouds churned a couple of times before revealing 9 colors. It is indeed a 9-colored pill lightning. Everyone involuntarily exclaimed after seeing the colors. Ha ha, Yao Chen, it looks like this elderly self is victorious this time around. Old Demon Hu looked at the thunderclouds. A moment later, he turned his head, looked at Yao Lao in the crowd, and coldly laughed. Yao Lao involuntarily frowned after hearing his words. He was just about to speak when a faint laugh appeared. That may not be the case. Old Demon Hu's face sunk after hearing these words. His eyes looked for the source of the voice. Xiao Yan, who had kept his eyes shut, slowly opened them at this moment. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Continuing from the previous episode 521. Chapter 1450. Black Demon lightning. The surrounding pairs of eyes contained some surprise as they shifted to Xiao Yan. They had not expected Xiao Yan to utter such words. Junior, trying to win verbally here will not benefit to you. Old Demon Hu looked at Xiao Yan and coldly laughed. His eyes once again swept over the fire cauldron in front of Xiao Yan as he spoke, yet he still failed to sense a medicinal pill fluctuation. A faint mocking smile flashed across his eyes. Xiao Yan merely grinned as Old Demon Hu coldly laughed. After which, he slowly stood up in front of many pairs of eyes. Buzz! The fire cauldron in front of Xiao Yan suddenly emitted a slight vibrating sound as he slowly stood up. Many people revealed surprised face upon seeing him stand. There is a slight medicinal pill ripple being emitted from the fire cauldron. The linen-clothed first elder on the stone stage suddenly spoke in a hoarse yet calm voice. The remaining 6 elders revealed shock in their eyes upon hearing his words. Even with their abilities, they were unable to sense a thing, but none of them doubted the first elder. Many surprised eyes were immediately thrown to Xiao Yan. A mere trick. Old Demon Hu was also slightly startled because of this vibration. However, he quickly frowned and remarked. Xiao Yan acted as though he did not hear these words. He slowly lifted his hand and aimed it at the fire cauldron from a great distance before suddenly clenching it. Roar! The coiled fire dragon within the fire cauldron suddenly emitted a clear roar as Xiao Yan clenched his hand. Its body swiftly swelled in front of many pairs of eyes. Bang! The fire cauldron was not able to last after the fire dragon swelled. It emitted a loud bang and exploded. Hot waves of fire explosively shot out in all directions. In an instant, it caused the temperature of this mountaintop to soar. Some of the closer alchemists hurriedly stepped back with altered expressions. Roar! After shattering the furnace, the body of the fire dragon swelled until it was thousands of feet long. It lingered in the sky as a terrifying pressure spread apart. Even the clouds of the 9-colored pill lightning began to show signs of shrinking. Junior, what are you planning to do? Old Demon Hu's heart sank after seeing the 9-colored thunderclouds show signs of shrinking. He immediately let out a stern cry. Noisy! Xiao Yan's expression turned cold. His eyes suddenly shot toward Old Demon Hu. A cold cry that contained an extremely powerful pressure exploded beside his ear. That pressure shook Old Demon Hu until the blood in his body churned. He staggered back. Despite his alchemy skills, his strength was at a level that could be killed by a random strike from Xiao Yan. You! Old Demon Hu was extremely startled and furious after being forced back by Xiao Yan's cold cry. Only at this moment did he realize that Xiao Yan's strength had far exceeded his expectations. Xiao Yan did not go overboard after shocking Old Demon Hu, since this was still the small pill tower. Those elders would not be pleased to see him attacking Old Demon Hu. He immediately regained focus and looked at the extremely large fire dragon in the sky. His hand seals changed, forming many after-images in the process. Fire dragon agglomerating pill. After a continuous chain of seals were formed by Xiao Yan's hands, the fire dragon in the sky continuously emitted an earth-shaking dragon roar. At the same time, a shocking energy fluctuation suddenly spread from the fire dragon's body. This is medicinal pill fluctuation? A stunned expression surfaced on the faces of many alchemists after they sensed this fluctuation. They had not been able to feel even a little of this fluctuation over the last few days. Using a fire to form an object and hide the pill inside. It is the method of creating an object to deposit the pill in. Old Yao, even you do not possess this ability, right? How has Xiao Yan learned this? Zhang Kongzi cried out in shock when he sensed the medicinal pill fluctuation that slowly scattered from the body of the fire dragon in the sky. This. Yao Lao opened his mouth. He could only bitterly smile as he shook his head. To create an object to deposit a pill inside required one's flame control and spiritual strength to reach a level that was extremely hard to achieve. A normal alchemist, including him, would not dare to use this method. He had not expected Xiao Yan to master it by himself. While Zhang Kongzi's group was feeling amazed by this scene, there were some other alchemists who had discovered the pill refinement technique Xiao Yan had used. Exclamations rose like a wave. The number of people present who had the ability to use this pill refinement method did not exceed 5. Yao Chen's disciple is really a little incredible. The few elders on the stone stage looked at each other and softly sighed. Bang! As the fluctuations emitted from the fire dragon's body became more intense, a loud and clear rumble suddenly echoed across the sky. Everyone could sense the mountain dim as clouds swiftly gathered from all directions. The clouds that were gathering were not gray thunderclouds. Instead, they were an extremely deep black color. Black clouds spread across the sky. Despite the absence of rumbling thunder, everyone's soul seemed to tremble as they looked into those deep black clouds. They seemed to be able to suck one's gaze in. The 9-colored thunderclouds above Old Demon Hu's head swiftly shrank as the black clouds spread. It appeared as though it had met something terrible. What kind of thunderclouds are these? They are able to scare the 9-colored thunderclouds. The eyes of many slightly shrank upon seeing this scene. A frightening thought surged into their hearts. The only medicinal pills in this world that can be more powerful than a Tier 8 medicinal pill, which could attract 9-colored pill lightning, was a higher tier medicinal pill. Above Tier 8, was the legendary Tier 9. This Xiao Yan is actually refining a Tier 9 medicinal pill? At this moment, even these extremely experienced alchemist gurus revealed interesting expressions. Black Demon Lightning. It has been many years since I have last seen you. That linen-clothed first elder lifted his head and muttered to himself as he looked at the black clouds in the sky, which had filled with a strange aura. Xiao Yan's eyes were also grave as he stared at the churning black clouds in the sky from the open ground. He could sense an extremely dense annihilation force in these clouds. This kind of energy was many times stronger than that of a 9-colored pill lightning. The layer of black clouds continued to churn in the distant sky. The entire square was completely silent. There were no thunderous roars, but it was precisely this dead silence that caused one to feel terrified. 10 minutes after the black clouds had continuously churned, a circular spatial hole suddenly formed in the middle of the clouds. The hole was still completely black. It appeared like an extremely deep black hole. Goosebumps suddenly formed all over Xiao Yan's body the moment this virtual hole appeared. A monstrous aura finally swept out of his body without holding back. Kai! An unusual sound was emitted from the hole after Xiao Yan's aura soared. Soon after, an arm-thick black lightning violently shot out. It quietly rushed toward the fire dragon below. The surrounding alchemists revealed shocked faces when they saw this black lightning. It did not appear large, but they hurriedly pulled back. Xiao Yan's eyes stared at the black lightning, which caused even him to feel some danger. He flicked his finger and 5 golden light figures rushed out of his storage ring. Sky demon puppets, which could absorb pill lightning, suddenly appeared in the sky above the fire dragon. Bang! The black thunderbolt flashed and appeared above the head of the first sky demon puppet before striking its body. This time around, the sky demon puppet, which had never failed before, instantly stiffened the moment the black lightning touched it. Its hard body emitted a bang and was shattered into dust. Bang 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 bang! After the first sky demon puppet was destroyed, the 4 remaining sky demon puppets were unable to effectively block this bolt of lightning. Their bodies stiffened the moment they touched a little of that black thunderbolt before they were blasted into dust. This was the first time Xiao Yan had seen such a thing after all these years. Xiao Yan's expression became very solemn after he lost 5 sky demon puppets. He did not take out any more sky demon puppets. It was clearly impossible for the sky demon puppets to absorb the destructive energy within the black thunderbolt with their strengths. He had to act personally. Hu! Xiao Yan gently exhaled a breath of air within his heart. He stepped forward with a foot and his body appeared in the sky above the fire dragon. He lifted his head, and his dark black eyes watched the black bolt of lightning rush toward him. Xiao Yan slowly clenched his hand as he watched the black thunderbolt approach. After clenching his hand, the energy around the mountain seemed to have been pulled by something as it gathered onto his fist from all directions. An elite Dou Sheng could control the natural energy within a certain area. A Dou Sheng was able to rely on this energy to create a destructive attack even after their bodies had been exhausted of Dou Qi. This was the most terrifying aspect of an elite Dou Sheng. Break it! Frightening energy gathered on Xiao Yan's fist. A crystal-clear brightness flashed with a dazzling luster. Subsequently, a fist was ruthlessly smashed against the black thunderbolt in front of many startled eyes. Bang! Upon collision, a frightening destructive storm immediately swept out in all directions with man and lightning at the point of origin. The entire sky seemed to have turned into shattered glass as it was blasted apart with a cracking sound. A short distance away, the colorful pill lightning above Old Demon Hu's head was torn into nothing by this terrifying storm. Old Demon Hu's expression had become unusually interesting as he stared at the sky, which had instantly become empty. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.